Hello, this is Jamie Menagerie. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how I made this card using that little lion that I made the other day with Stampin' Up some Menagerie mix-up. So let's get started. I'm going to use that little lion that you made in that other video. I have a piece of white, which is 4 by 5 1/4. A piece of the In Good Taste Designer Series paper wood grain. You could use a solid brown too, that would be fine, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and a heavy thick white card base, 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored and folded at 4 1/4. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to the front of my card just to get it out of the way, get a little bit less off my table, and then I'll go through the stamps that I'm using. Center that up, it should be the same size as the front of the card. Keyword is should be. Whoops, just slid. Try that again. There we go. And we'll set that aside. Set the little lion aside for now. And now I'm using Real Red, Magenta Madness, Cinnamon Cider, and the Whisper White Craft ink. For ink pads, 90% of it is pattern play. However, I did bring in Happy Valentine's Day from Meant to Be for the inside of the card. You don't need to do that if you don't want to. And I also have a chamois so I can clean my stamp in between inking. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to bring in this stamp here, and the Cinnamon Cider ink. Okay, I'm going to ink this stamp. I'm going to stamp it off, and then I'm going to stamp on the background. So I'm going to start, let's start like up here. I'm just going to do a bunch of random inking. Okay, ink it up again, stamp off. I'll start here. Stamp off, start over here, and I'm just randomly filling in some of that background. Okay. Alright, while I'm at it, I'm going to bring in the sentiment. It says, fill the day with all your guilty pleasures. So if you don't use that Valentine's sentiment on the inside, it could be just a birthday card. And about 1/2 inch from the bottom, I'm going to go ahead and stamp the sentiment. Okay, and we're done with the cinnamon cider. Alright, now I'm going to come in with, there's 2 heart set stamps in that. The solid one, I forgot a step. So first I'm going to bring in my blender brush and my magenta madness ink. I'm going to ink this up, swirl it on there, tap it off a little bit. I'm going to ink up the center here. I want a little bit of a pink halo like in the center. So ink it up good. Tap so you don't have the harshness. Start in the center. Get it darker in the center and then work your way out as the ink runs out around the edge. Okay, I'm done with that. I'm going to bring in that solid hearts. And I'm going to stamp and stamp again without re-inking. Take your time with this so you get a solid image. Stamp. Down here, stamp. And let's do one more here in case it shows. I don't think it's going to, but okay. So we're done with the magenta for the moment. And we're going to bring in the real red. And the line art hearts. We're going to do the same thing. I'm going to stamp. Now we're going to move it. Stamp again. We're going to stamp. Move it and stamp again. I'm going to do one more over here. It's probably not going to show because it's behind the lion, but okay. Then we're going to take the solid heart, make sure it's cleaned off really well. We're going to come in with our Craft Whisper White ink. Even if this is cleaned, it's going to start picking up the color that's left on the ink pad. On the stamp. I don't know why it does that, but it does. Pick it up. We're going to stamp some hearts with the white. And it's going to pick up some of the pink that's underneath it. Clean it off again. Let's do one more over here. Which way do I want to do? Let's do one this way. Okay. Clean that off. Alright. Now let's bring in, set this aside for a minute. This has to dry. I might have to bring in the heat tool to dry it. You'll see where there's the pink underneath it. It's going to absorb that pink a little bit and change to like a neon pink almost. Okay, we're going to bring in this part. And our solid stamp again. Magenta Madness. Make sure this is good and clean because I do see white ink on it still. We're gonna stamp. Stamp off. Okay. Come in with the solid one and the red ink. Not going to do as many. Do one solid one. One stamped off. And one stamped off here. And let's go one more. There we go. Okay, now we're going to come in with either black ink or the cinnamon cider. And the Happy Valentine's Day sentiment. Stamp that right here in the middle where it's a little bit lighter. Alright, let's close this. Now I'm going to take this over and heat it with my heat tool and dry that white ink because it takes quite a bit of time to dry. Okay, I've dried that pretty much. It's still a little bit You see a little bit of glossy here and there, but that's alright. We'll just be a little careful. I'm going to apply some glue to the back of it. Mount that center on the front of this card. Make sure this is clean. I'm going to turn it over so I don't smear it without it moving, and rub it so if any wet ink will get onto here and not, I won't smear it across the front of the card. Okay, now I'm going to bring in my little lion. On the back of his head I've stacked 2 dimensionals on top of each other. I'm going to take off the back of that second one. I'm going to put wet glue here on this body. I'm going to put it just a touch here so I can move him if I need to. I'm going to figure out where I want him and set him down. There you go, there's a card we just made together. Here's the one I did previously. So each one's going to be a little bit different depending on where you stamp your hearts and background. Well, thank you for joining me at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.